Greetings, everyone. This is your boy, Sam Oram, coming at you with another episode of the Deep Dive Podcast. Guys, I'm so excited. So many things have been happening over the last few weeks as we've been talking about on each episode of the Deep Dive Podcast. We've had great audiences. We've had great guests. We've had great feedback. And it's just getting better and better and better. Like we say in the country, it's getting gooder and gooder. So I'm excited. I'm excited to be able to share with you today with a gentleman that I have so much respect for. You know, this is a guy that he's a man after my own heart, because at the root and the core of who he is, it's all about empowerment. You know, it is about how he, as well as other people in his circle, continuously empower people. And that's what we're talking about here on the Deep Dive Podcast. That's what we're all about. We want to be able to continue to empower people, continue to uplift people. We want these podcasts. I want you to make sure you understand this and listen to the very end. Go back and listen to this podcast over and over, because we're not just doing podcasts to have a conversation. We're bringing the best of the best to the Deep Dive Podcast so that you can be inspired, so that you can be empowered, so that you can change your lives forever. And the gentleman I'm about to bring to you epitomizes all of those things. He is a loving, good-hearted man, a person who has done some great things, and I'll let him share his story with you. But he's actually an elder, and he's doing so many things in the ministry that is so very, very impressive, especially at a young age. You know, he is empowering people in his demographics. He has a passion for young people. I mean, I can go on and on and on about it, but I'll just let him tell your story. But I think at the core of everything that you want to extract from this gentleman, you want to be able to understand and listen to and write down some of the jewels that he's going to share with you, not just about his journey, but how his journey can teach and train and educate and inspire you to continue forth with your journey. So I won't hold him from you any longer. I want to bring to the Deep Dive Podcast world none other than my boy, Elder Jonathan McCaleb. Jonathan, how you doing, my man?
Man, I'm doing good. How you doing today, man?
I am doing outstanding, man. I can't stop smiling because I've been waiting for this moment, knowing that you're gonna, really empower our audience and just doing some great things, like I said. And this is a historic moment for me. And people who know me know I just don't say stuff just to say it. To have you as a guest on the Deep Dive Podcast, but to be able to share your wisdom and knowledge with so many people around the world, it is going to be incredible. And I just want to thank you again for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us today.
Man, most definitely. Thank you for having me, man. I'm glad to be here with you.
Yeah, man, we are excited. So I know you've done so many things, and I really wanted the audience to kind of get a feel for your journey. And one of the things that, we talk about when we talk about the journey, we're doing these podcasts again so that people can find themselves within you. They can find something that they can extract from your story to be able to, impact them on their journey. I know you started out and you're a basketball player in South Carolina, and you matriculated to the ministry. Just share a little bit with everybody about your journey and how you actually got to this particular point.
Yeah, most definitely. So started out from a young age. I grew up with parents who were very involved in the ministry. My father is actually was a bishop here in our church organization. So I grew up in the church, grew up under the umbrella of what it meant to be a PK or a pastor's kid. And so I grew up under the umbrella of church and traveling and going all these different places. And at a young age, I knew that there was a calling on my life. But like most people who are really called to the ministry, they don't want it. I was very, I had other plans that I wanted to do, which basketball being one of them. So for a long time, I somewhat ran. I always tell people that I believe that I got behind the curtain too soon. Sometimes you get behind the curtain, you see things that sometimes traumatize you, or it just makes you go, I don't want anything to do with that. I'm fine. I'll just stay back and sit here and twiddle my thumbs. So at a young age, I didn't really see myself in ministry too much. I see myself what I wanted to do. I loved business and I loved basketball. Ended up going to South Carolina and playing basketball on a full ride scholarship. And literally from the time that I left my last day in high school to go out there, I began hearing the voice of God and beginning to experience these different things. My first day of college, I believe I was there for no longer than an hour. I got in a horrific car accident. I got there, the coach came over to the house and was like, "Hey, Jonathan, will you do me a favor? Can you drive my wife's car? I'm going to go pick up the other car." And I just got there. I let him know, like, "Hey, coach, I'm kind of tired." I asked one of the other teammates, and he went over and asked one of the other guys who had just got there from New Orleans. Guy came over and was like, "Well, just ride with me." And so we rode and was following the coach, and we ended up getting hit by one of those 16-wheeler trucks, and our car literally flipped over 3 times.
Wow.
And I remember coming to myself and getting out the car and trying to rip the door open to pull him out of the car. And the police officer, after the ambulance and everybody had gotten there, pulled up and said, "Oh, okay, these people must already been sent to the hospital for DOI, dead on impact." And he said, "No, people that was in this accident is over on the side getting a Band-Aid put on their leg because they got just a small scratch on their leg." And so from then on, I mean, it was evident that the protection, the grace of God, and that I was being covered for a specific reason. And a lot of times, you run from it, but not knowing that God is still protecting you from what He called you from. We hear it all the time. Jonah in the whale, he got swallowed by the whale until he actually succumbed to the will of God. And through that journey, I ended up moving after college to San Diego with my father to help him out in the ministry in any way that I can. I'm by trade musician as well, play the drums, piano, and everything else. So went out there just to help him a little bit, and finally just said yes to the call. Finally said yes to the call of ministry. But it's different from being a PK because when you're in that light, there's a certain light that's on you. There's a certain visibility that everybody's watching. There's a certain ordinance that you have to have because feeling like you can't make mistakes, things of that sort. But I'm not one that's got into ministry with everything being perfect, man. I've done everything from every mistake that you think that could be made as a young kid, made mistakes, done the wrong things. I always tell when I'm speaking to youth, like, "Hey, I know where you've been before." Sometimes you see the suits, you see the preaching, you see the businesses, you see the books and everything that happens now, but nobody really knows the story behind it. I mean, I've sold drugs. I mean, just everything that possibly could have.
Dealer. Come on now,
man, it was hard. You get tired of certain things after a while. So I mean, at a time, it was just like, "Hey, just seems like something to do." As an adolescent, as a young kid who doesn't really know, but feels like he knows what's the right thing to do.
Right.
And so going full circle to where I am now and seeing the grace of God and everything that He's allowed me to do. I mean, I'll tell anybody in a second, I'm like, God uses the ashes that you make. There's beauty in your ashes. God can literally take you from nothing and use those same things that people seen as horrid and turn it around and make it as a light in another aspect. So I'm a living testimony of someone that God literally allowed to go through certain things, go through the trenches until understanding what it meant to be under the umbrella, not of a church, but a God who loves you and knows what that means. Because I believe I began preaching not because my father was a bishop, not because I grew up in the church. I said yes to the ministry because I fell in love with God. So that was my motivation. So now that I'm in it, it's not about man, it's not about money, it's about the man I fell in love with, and it was God. So he's empowered me to do everything that I'm doing. And so with that, if He's empowered me, I'm like, why can we not empower the world? And so that's what I try to do every single day with everything that I do.
Man, that is awesome, man. That is incredible. You know, you talk about that calling, getting that calling from God. And it was interesting. I remember talking to Pastor Creflo Dollar, and he said something very simple. He said he kept getting this call to be in the ministry, getting this call from God, but he wasn't sure. He just nah, this ain't me, and do it. He was an athlete as well, football player. And he talked about how he's like, you know what, I'm just ignoring this. I'm gonna play football until he tore up his knee. And he's no longer able to play football. And then he's like, you know what, maybe let me just pay a little bit more attention to this calling. So what was that aha moment for you? And I ask that because I know there are other
Mhm.
people who may be struggling with whether it's a ministry or anything, but what was that aha moment for you in terms of that calling that said, you know what, I just got to do this? I know you fell in love with God, but was there
Mhm.
a specific aha moment for you?
Yeah, what it was for me is first thing I had to realize, because in a lot of things, when you're called to something, whether it's ministry, whether it's business, whether it's athletic, whether it's whatever it is that you're called to, a lot of times what people do is we sometimes feel incapable of doing it, or we feel like there's no way that I can fulfill this large vision, this large dream.
Right.
And one thing I had to come to the understanding, and once I did, it really helped, was that God doesn't call the prepared. He prepares the called. It's
Mm.
the difference. He
Say
doesn't,
that
he
again,
doesn't,
my
he
brother.
doesn't
Say
call,
that
God
again.
doesn't, God doesn't call the prepared. He prepares the called.
Mm.
So he doesn't look for people. A woman named by the name of Catherine Coleman said it best a long time ago. She said, God's not looking for silver vessels. He's not looking for golden vessels. He's looking for yielded vessels. He said, that's all he's looking for, someone to be
Right.
yielded. He's not looking for you to be perfect. He's not looking for you to have all the answers. He's looking for someone who's willing to be prepared and go through the process
Right.
to do what is needed to do. The aha moment for me was after falling in love with God, spending moments in prayer and different things like that. I remember I was asked to speak. We actually had a youth conference going on in the city.
Okay.
And something happened. So we had an out of town guest that was coming in, and something happened that the day of they weren't able to make it. I don't know if the flight was canceled. It was like, but they called maybe 6, 7 hours before and was like, "Hey, something came up. This flight's going. I won't be able to make it to California in time for the conference."
Right.
And I remember the conference host came and they called and like, this is what's going on. I was like, oh man, okay, that's horrible. Well, what are we gonna do? And they said, well, we wonder if you could speak. And I was kind of like, huh?
On the
I
spot.
was like, no. I was like, no, 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 no. I can't do that. I can't. I had never done it before. I
Right.
knew that there was a call in my life. I never said yes. I knew I loved God, but I was still afraid to walk in what He called me to do. And a
Right.
lot of times that's what we face. We face fear. We fight through the fear of self-doubt. We fight through the
Mhm.
fear of, a lot of times people see more in us than we are willing to look at ourselves.
Right.
And so it was the no, I've never done it. Don't think I can do it. So long story short, I said, okay, yes. And I remember going to my dad and was like, hey, they asked me to preach. You the preacher, what's the advice? And he took me in the office, he sat me down, he said, follow God. He
Mm.
said, follow God, follow your heart. If you really believe that he's with you the way he is, he'll give you something. I remember sat in his office. I said, well, can I sit in your office? I sat in his office and for the first time just wrote out the intentions after reading the Bible, wrote out the intentions of what I believe that God was giving me in that moment. And there was no theoretical training. There was no homiletics, hermeneutics. I didn't go through
Right.
theology school. There was nothing like that. It was someone who knew that they had a call, really didn't want it, like
Uh-huh.
wanted nothing to do with it, and decided just to say yes. That night I spoke, scared, trembling, shaking, like, Lord, why do you have me here? What is this all about? And gave the word, and literally at the end of the word, there was literally 37 to 40 people that came down
Mm.
after the message and was like in tears and crying and just like I couldn't fathom what was going on. People were saying, well, I want to know God like that, and I want to rededicate my life, and I want to be better. I want to be changed. I believe that he's been calling me to do this, and through what you've given me, I feel like I can do that now. And seeing that alone, I was like, oh my God,
Right. Right.
this is it.
Yeah.
This is literally it. And I went back that night and I prayed and I was like, yes, the answer is yes. And it's funny because so many times growing up, funny thing is I was a kid that would go to the church. Like I said, all the things that I was doing,
Right.
I would go to the church and there would be a prophet there and he would call me out, hey, you right there. And I was like, oh Lord, what they want now?
Right. Yeah.
And they would always find their way to me and say, hey, the hand of God is on your life. You shall walk in this office. This is what you should do. And I would cry. I would cry and they'd go, lift your hands, that's God. And I'd be crying, saying, that's not God. I'm crying because I don't want to do it.
Right.
And so I was a young kid who knew the Bible. So I would go home and say, God, you said you would give us the desires of our heart. this ain't the desire of my heart. Take it away and give it to somebody else.
Right.
And so I prayed for him to take it away. So to get in that moment and to see the effect, that I was able to, through the grace of God, be able to help someone, and to have that many people come down and say that was a life-changing moment. That was the aha. I was like, that's what it's all about. And in that moment, I realized it's not about me. It's about being able to help those that he's called me to. And that was the aha moment of noticing the empowerment part of, this is more than just you. I called you not for you. I called you for them. Wow. And so a calling, one thing we need to understand about a calling is anytime you're called to something, the calling is never for you.
That's right.
It's for the people that you're supposed to help. So whether it's a business that you're afraid to start, the business is not for you. It's for the people that you can help through your business. If you call through the ministry is not for you. It's the people that you can help through your ministry. If you're called to be an athlete, it's not just for you. It's for the people that you can impact with the gift that you have. So that was pretty much what it was for me.
Man, that is powerful. You know, the underlying theme from what you just shared, the thing that I really want everybody to take away from, it's just your obedience, you know, your obedience to what you were hearing, what you were feeling, that calling. And the fact that you were obedient, this is why so many people have been impacted by what you have done, you know, ever since to this very moment. You have changed so many people's lives just being obedient to that calling and being obedient to that, what we call intuition, but we know it's the spirit, you know, speaking to you in a certain way. So that is very important. I want everybody to understand as well, just a part of being successful, whether it is in the ministry, whether it is, you know, in business, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in your marriage, it is to be just obedient to what you know to be real. You know, just follow those things. One of the gentlemen that we talked about in a previous episode, he talked about taking imperfect action now.
Yes.
Imperfect action now. Well, what does that mean? That means you are being obedient to that intuition, or being obedient to that spirit, or being obedient to that calling. You don't have to wait till all of the ducks are in a row, because they ain't gonna ever be in a row.
Right.
Everything is perfect, because guess what? It ain't gonna ever all be perfect.
Never.
You know,
never.
So you took the right approach, and that is to just be obedient. You follow that, and thank God that you did, man, because there's so many people that are lost right now through, you know, what's going on with the pandemic, what's going on. People have become so tribal in terms of politics, in terms of their religion. What do you think? I mean, there's so many changes going on in the Black church. What do you think? What's your thought or feelings on that? How we can continue to progress in a positive way, even post-COVID? I know everything is virtual now, and people, you know, like I said, become so tribal, and things just seem a little scatterbrained. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's definitely a transition. And one thing I shared.
Write that down. Transition. We're in a transition.
It's a definite transition that we're in right now, culturally everywhere. And even with the church, I shared with a few pastors that I was in contact with. I said, believe it or not, we were all speaking of the pandemic and everything that was just going on, and us feeling like we had to do more work, things being just a little bit chaotic. And I spoke to them. I said, you know what? I said, what we don't realize is what I believe is that the pandemic was actually the greatest thing that could ever happen to the church. And the reason why I say that is a lot of times what happens is you can be confined just into the building. And confined just of the people that's in the building. One thing that the pandemic did is that it opened up the gospel to everybody around the world, because it leveled basically the platform. Everybody is on the same platform now. Why? Because there's no more buildings. Everything you see now is on Facebook, is on Instagram, is on YouTube. Now you have an open platform to the world that God forced some of the church to learn how to do. How many churches did you know before the pre-pandemic had live streaming, had different things that they can actually reach different people? So now I believe that God opened up one gospel to the entire world. I really believe post-pandemic that we're going to see an influx of people into the church like never before, because in this transition, like you said, we have a lot of people that's experienced things that they've never felt before in a series of isolation. They're very tribal. You can't leave the house. People are scared to cough. People are scared to be around other people. And it's like, what do we turn to? There's no longer, hey, let me meet up with my friend and let's talk. There's no longer, hey, if I can just get to the church, everything can be all right.
Right.
Well, church is in your living room now. Well, church is in your bedroom now.
Everywhere you go.
Everywhere you go, church is at the extent of you having a phone in your hand.
That's right.
So what I believe that where we are now is learning how to recalibrate ourselves post-pandemic, because I believe that the church world has changed forever. I don't think that we will ever go back to the way that the church once was pre-COVID, because of all the nuances we were opened up to during this time, the live streaming, the people being able to have a whole service in the comfort of their homes. So it's a difference. So now it's I think the fight is going to be is providing a safe environment for people to feel comfortable, be able to come into back into the church. But more importantly, through anything, now we have to help people navigate through a new normal. Right. We have to help people navigate and transition out of a place that they've been in into a place that we've never seen before. What does post-pandemic look like for us? We don't know. We think this is an invisible disease that shut the world down for almost 2 years straight. Mm-hmm. So now it's what was experienced during those times. What kind of grief? Think about the immense amount of loss right now. There's more deaths that's been in this past year and a half than we've seen in decades at one time, of people just passing due to this virus. Yeah. So now we have people in grief. We have people struggling with the loss of parents, family members, wives, husbands, children. We have people who's lost their job. We have people who are now living a new standard of life that they may not have been accustomed to. Some people may have been with a certain company and they didn't lose their job. The whole company shut down. Mm-hmm. So now it's a new norm of life of trying to figure out, we have to pick up the pieces. I'm reminded of a story in the Bible when the Bible talks about David. Just before David became king, he went to a place called Ziklag. And the place called Ziklag was in an enemy's territory, where he went out to fight with these people to defeat the Philistines, but they wouldn't allow him to fight. And when he came back, he noticed his camp was burned to the ground. All his men and his children, wives, and family members were all taken. And the Bible says that everything was burned down, and the people who were with him began of stoning him. They began speaking of killing him. The same people who were saying, I'll have your back no matter what, was the same people who are now, because of their grief, was now going, it's your fault. We need someone to blame. So in that space, he said, God, shall I pursue? And he said, if I pursue, shall I overtake them? Basically what he was saying was, God, is it even worth me keep going? Should I just stop? Lord, should I even keep going, or should I stop right here? And the Lord said, pursue. You will surely recover all. And the Lord basically said, don't stop. If you go, you're going to get back everything that you lost. Right. And so now it's helping people pick up the pieces to get back to a life of normalcy, to pick up everything that they lost and show them that there is life after loss. There is life after this transition. There's life after this post-pandemic. So I think the church world, what it looks like, where the direction that we go into, is that the church may be more active than it's ever been before. Right. Active in communities, active in businesses, active in the church, active in the streets, active in the homelessness culture, active in a lot of different things. I think this really opened up the eyes that there's not really an indifference. We're all in the same boat, because the same way that the church shut down, businesses shut down. Right. The same way that businesses shut down, people who worked in the church, who worked in business, there's a certain culpability that you have. One thing that brings everybody together, because we all experience the same thing, is pain. Mm-hmm. Everybody will experience an immense amount of pain. So I think there is a connection right now that people are looking to something to gravitate to in this area and go, well, should I even keep going? Because pandemic hit, I lost my job, I lost the place that I was living in. I lived in a 6-bedroom house. Now I'm in a 2-bedroom apartment. In the process, I lost families and loved ones due to the COVID. What's now like this? What is this? What does life look like now? And I think the church job now is to help everyone navigate to the place that, hey, keep going. You shall surely recover all. Right. Don't quit. You're going to recover all, and it'll be better after this. And I think that's where we're looking at right now.
Yeah, that is powerful, man. I tell you what, it reminds me, I know you co-founded the new normal. And
Yes.
is this a part of that ideology in terms of the new normal, where we're going, the things that you just talked about, or elaborate a little bit on, the vision of the new normal that you co-found?
Yeah, the new normal was definitely was something that me and like one of my closest friends, and Minister Andrew Brooks, started. We had the idea pre-pandemic. We came together and was trying. Yeah, and we didn't know why. We were trying to figure out what we were going to do, and we want to do something to impact the people. And the idea came, we want to have a service. No, everybody's having services. Right. What will be the point? What are we trying to do?
Right.
And we came up with the name. Just came up, the new normal. And we were like, okay. The moment that we started working on it, the pandemic hit. And what we did was we took the foundation of what was in transitioning to what's going to be. So even in ministry with that podcast, what we did is we did a video version of the podcast and also audio as well, which is found on all platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, everything, any platform that you can look for it for. And what we did is we started getting people together. We had conversations with people like first ladies around the city and the new normal. What is the challenges of being a first lady? And what we basically tried to do is use this platform to take where we are, the challenges and the differences, and even the things that we may bicker and fuss about and go, well, what's the new norm? What is it going to look like? We had one episode, that's probably my favorite ever, which was entitled, it was a conversation between the fathers and the son, and we named it The Generals. And what we did was we had a group of bishops from around the city and some of the most prestige voices that you know from the city sat down with some young preachers. And we called every preacher, every young minister, every elder, everyone that we know, we brought them into one building for the podcast recording. And we had a conversation between the fathers and the sons of ministry. Right. We talked about generational divide. We talked about what the new normal would be as far as where we were going in the church world. Because if you notice, even in the church world, we have a lot of our generals are leaving on due to the pandemic. There's been so many bishops and pastors that have passed on.
That's right.
And so now we're in a season that we like to call the changing of the guards. There's a mantle that's being passed down to now a different generation. And so what is now is, if you notice the culture before to the culture now, it was even something as simple as attire. You're dressed in your best, Sunday clothes, suits. And now you see some churches, people got on jeans and t-shirts.
That's right, yeah.
And it's like, well,
yeah, not back in the day, go to church without being suited and booted. Grandma wasn't.
Yeah, it was I mean, we had what was called church clothes.
Yeah, exactly. And Easter clothes.
You get 3 clothes in the church. You go get your church clothes, and to only wear that on Sunday. Right. And it was so basically we talked about everything from the church to music industry to just life of a new normal. Where do we navigate to? How do we go on to a new normal? But the thing is, you can't move on to the new until you really understand the old. So we brought the concept together of going, well, what's happened? What has happened in the past? Where are we at now? And now how do we transition to this new place? Because the only way that we can do it is together.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. That is so true, man. I tell you what, one of the reasons, again, or one of many reasons I wanted you to share your journey with the audience is to kind of bridge that mental gap that people they're frustrated, they're disillusioned in a lot of cases, because there's not a lot of interaction because of the pandemic. We talked about one of the necessities of human behavior is human interaction. Yeah. Because we don't have that there is a bit of mental anguish that's going on. And believe it or not, like you said, a lot of these things is not going to go back to the way it was. So we have to be prepared for that new normal, if you will, and not just through the ministry, through every aspect of life. I look at it from my lens through the business world. And we've been talking about a transition taking place from the industrial age to the information age. Yeah, industrial age, and that time where you were told to go to school, get good grades, and go to college and get a degree, so that you can get a good job with good benefits. Yeah, that's a lot of people's story who's listening in on this podcast. But when you think about it, there is a transition that's taking place in that aspect as well. And so in order for us to be well-rounded, using our spirituality as the foundation for what we're doing, but then also allowing that foundation to uplift us in our business lives, in our marriages, in our personal relationships, in our relationship with God. In other words, we're going to need that foundation through this new normal to be able to really thrive moving forward. Because as you said, it's not going to be the same. Nothing is going to be the same, and it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we make the adjustments right now and get ahead of the curve if we're going to thrive big time. That's just the way I see it. So I concur with what you're saying.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing, because when there's one thing that happens is sometimes one of the most uncomfortable things that you do is being forced into change. And sometimes what we aren't willing to do, God to somewhat put a nudge into us to go through change. If you said the industrial world and the business, I looked at today that Apple is just coming up with something with a super huge project that's going to put over 7,500 people in jobs. We talk about that industrial to now the digital electronical age now to I was of the same mindset, went to school, got a business degree, make sure I have a good degree so I can get a good job with good benefits. And it's fine. But that was of the mindset. But now you have certain corporations and jobs where you need a bachelor's to work at McDonald's. It seems like now there's a transition of people that's going, well, I was used to doing it this way, but now the world is changing that we have to do it this way.
That's right.
What do? You prepare for a new norm. You do everything that you can to transition to something that we haven't seen before. And one thing that we do is what we don't know, what we don't see, we fear. And that's one thing that I'm trying to get people to understand. Don't fear the unknown. The unknown is only what it is. It's unknown. And unknown doesn't always equal something that's going to be bad. So what we do is prepare for what we can prepare for. When we see these different things, letting people know that through faith, through business, through jobs, through everything, it's a transition for all of us. There's nothing that seems like it's been the same. And after through the pandemic, we've seen so many new things happen now. We've seen some of the most greatest inventions and some of the greatest books and some of the greatest businesses are being birthed out of a place of people only being able to be in their house.
Absolutely.
Because one of the best ways to launch a business is to solve a problem. And so now what's happened is we have a lot of problems through the pandemic, and we have a lot of people who are now businesses and they're opening up to solve problems. If you have a consumer business that is meant to solve a problem, you'll never have to go look for business. It'll always come to you because problems that always need to be solved will always make its way to you. So it's the new norm.
Right. That's it, man. That's powerful. One of the things you talk about in terms of, just not being fearful to do things and step out. And I can tell you it is a fact that, you're only born with two fears. That's the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. Every other fear is learned. So if it is a learned behavior, then it can be changed. Right? So we kind of have to come from behind that cloak of fear, to be able to attack our lack before our lack attacks us. And I think it's super important for us to understand that. But one thing I wanted to get with you on, and I smile when I say it because I wanted you to share with the audience about this book.
Yes.
This book, the title is so captivating that I have to have you explain it to everybody. For those of you who may not know, Jonathan has a book out, and it's called I Think the Ministry is Killing My Parents. I want to know, first of all, how did you come up with that title? But more importantly, what does that mean? I know I'm excited to find out what that means, the meaning behind that.
Man, it's one of my most prized projects. It's something that this book has literally took me through so many emotions, tears, journeys through myself of just a lot of different feelings and emotions. This book came out out of a vision that I had in my mind. I was sitting there and I had a vision of a pastor and a first lady standing in front of a pulpit.
Okay.
And what I seen behind them was a son. I seen a boy, I seen a child, seen him holding the Bible and them crying. But the people that was in front of the congregation, I see them clapping, I see them high-fiving, I see them shouting, I see them screaming, I see them just in a happy, just joyous time. And I saw in the vision, I seen the pastor and first lady holding hands, and I seen both of them with one hand up waving. And I was kind of confused with what I was seeing because the little boy behind them was crying. He was crying, he was screaming. And in the vision, what I seen was he could only see what nobody else could. And what he could see was, as they were waving, what no one could see was their backs. And from their backs, both of them was bleeding.
Oh, wow.
And then I just seen blood running through. And I called a friend who I was an artist. I said, hey, I got this idea. If I tell you, can you sketch this? Can you sketch this out?
Right.
And he's like, yeah, what do you want? And I was like, just draw this picture. And I described it to him, and they drew it. And I'm gonna put the pre-idea of the picture of the book in, and I'm gonna put it actually in the book for people to see. And you literally see the congregation screaming and happy and high-fiving. And you see this little boy holding this Bible crying because he's looking at not the leaders, his parents bleed.
Wow.
But he's the only one to be able to see it. So what this book is, I know everybody that hears the title, I always get calls like, man, what made you think of that?
Yeah.
And really what it is, it's a book more than just ministry. I know a lot of people are like, well, are you going to go at the church? Are you going to? Really what this book is an insight of what it is to lead, or an insight of what it is to be a first family, the struggles of PKs, pastors, first ladies. It's the struggle that no one sees. It's actually one of the chapters in the book is the struggle that no one sees. It's bringing an insight to what most people aren't able to see. Most times you look at these prestige leaders, you look at a TD Jakes, you look at a Joel Osteen, you look at a Creflo Dollar, you look at a Jamal Bryant, you look at all these great, wonderful preachers, but you don't know what comes or what has to happen for them to get to the place that they're in. The struggles that they face, the struggles that we aren't able to see because only thing that we see is the Sunday morning, the message. We see the giving, we see the giving to the homeless, we see the weddings, we see the preaching at funerals, but you don't know the inside of everything that happens, the work, the tears, the loneliness, the everything that comes into it. So I have chapters in there speaking of the first ladies. I have chapters speaking on the life of a PK, a preacher's kid. I have a lot of chapters speaking on the pastor, speaking on the struggles of ministry, speaking on what it means, speaking on pain, speaking on grief, speaking on loss, speaking on all these different things and different emotions that we feel. So it's really a book that goes through a journey and a story of a first family. You literally go through a journey of a first family. And what my idea was when writing this book was I wanted to give an in-depth, in-person consultation or view for everybody who doesn't normally be able to get behind the curtain to see, wow, there's a level of appreciation that we should have because I didn't know they had to go through all of this. Because one thing's with the book and one thing's being in that position, even within, I spoke with a lot of pastors, I spoke with a lot of first ladies, I spoke with a lot of preachers' kids in writing this book to go, hey, what are some of your experiences? What did you get? How do you feel? And a lot of times, if you look at the facts of what it is to ministry, most pastors are lonely, don't have more than 3 friends. They're pulled away a lot from their families. I know there was one story I was hearing that was really tough to hear because I've seen it firsthand. I mean, I've heard preachers and pastors' kids say one of the hardest things was seeing my father, who was the pastor, to go and pray for one of the people at church that was battling depression and didn't know that I was battling with it at the house.
Wow.
And so it's things like that. You like, wow, I didn't think of it like that because in that position, it's more than what people think it is. So what I wanted to do was bring an appreciation, to bring a light, to bring an insight on that side, that part of their world. It's more than just giving, beyond the preaching, beyond the gifts, beyond the sacrifices. What really happens, and my goal is to really hope to bring an appreciation to all these people around the world who stand in that position, because it's a tremendous tremendous duty to stand in that position. I was able to see it firsthand. My father was a bishop since the day I was born. He was a preacher, started out traveling, evangelizing. We moved to different states. I've seen him go ahead and set camp as a pastor, and then one day becoming a bishop, flocking a large congregation,
Right.
and seeing at times how hard it is.
Yeah.
And that's really my idea of it.
Yeah, that's powerful, man. I tell you what, Jonathan, knowing you the way I do is this particular book is not just about, the challenges of the ministry family, but it's also lessons for all of us.
Everybody.
The struggles that we have to go through, even in the midst of accomplishments. What we have to do in terms of sacrifice.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, sacrifice is the shortest distance between your dreams and the realization of those dreams. So you're gonna have to sacrifice, like you said, your time away from your family, or being able to service other people when you need to be servicing your own home. There are a lot of things and challenges that we're gonna face, and I wanted people to understand the value of, first of all, getting this book. So I certainly let us know how we can get this book, but then also being able to extract something from it that can continue to empower us, because at the end of the day, all of us are in a similar situation. We're all born to do the best that we can, to be as great as we can. And we may take different paths, but at the end of the day, the goal is the same. So how can we actually get our hands on this book, or, get access to this information?
Yeah, most definitely. So this book is coming soon. You can go on my website, which is www.jonathanmccaleb.com, and pre-order the book now. The book is we're working with some great editors, working with some great graphic people. We actually have I have a lot of things that's going to come out with this book. It's not going to be the only thing. It's going to be a whole package that's going to come with it. But once it's released, you can pre-order it now on my website. And once it's released, you'll be able to find it everywhere from Amazon to Barnes and Nobles. You'll be able to pick it up on eBay, in any platform. You'll be able to basically grab that information. And one thing you said is, with it being able to help everyone, one thing that this book will do, and in my prayer is in it, one thing that it's going to do is going to provoke a conversation. It's going to provoke a conversation, and not just with pastors, not just with first families. There's going to be things in this book that's going to make parents go to their child and go, "Is this how you feel?"
Right.
And it's going to, have you ever felt like this? Have you ever felt like this before? It's going to cause children or young people to read the book and go, "Do y'all struggle with this? Have you ever?" Because one thing, like I said, one thing that connects all of us is pain.
Right.
And through the ministry, through the accomplishments and everything, there are certain sacrifices and things that needs to be made through business, especially in business. I look at most businessmen that has to travel, that has to be away, and they're doing it not just because they feel like they should. It's a providing. You're providing for your family,
right,
making sure. And the best thing that a parent can try to do is to give everything that they can to their child. And so one thing, it's going to, even with the first ladies, I heard something a long time ago, and it said, "Is the first lady ever first?" And it's going to cause things in reading the book of just a married couple of, do you feel like this sometimes? Does what I do make you feel, do you feel like you come second to what I do and not who we are as a unit, as a marriage? So it's going to provoke conversations in so many different ways, different capacities. I mean, it's not just to the church world. I mean, it's to anybody that you can think of. I mean, young people, married couples. See, it's because it's so thought provoking. If you ever thought that you were called to do something, and had the struggle of confiding in someone, or had the struggling of whether you really wanted to do it, we talk about that in the book. We talk about the struggle of saying yes to whatever that means. What does it mean to say yes?
right.
What does it mean to really step out of fear and into destiny? What does it mean to really step out of your comfort zone to be not what you want to be, but what God has called you to be? Because what he's called you to be is greater than anything that you could ever imagine or think of. You just have to step out of fear of yourself and step in the confidence of him. I mean, there's so many different things that this book is going to unpack, but the biggest thing that it's going to do is going to force conversations. And that's one thing that I love.
Yeah, you call it forcing conversations. I'm calling it starting some mess. You're gonna have, I can see it now. I can already see it now. You're gonna have all these first ladies from all over the country going into the pastor's office with the book in hand and going on the desk. Is this how you feel? I can already see it.
Man, it's
You know what?
definitely
If it sparks conversation, then it is what it is, right?
yeah. Because at certain point, a lot of things that we do is we hold in the way that we feel. We go, I'm just supposed to deal with this, so I'll feel this way. That's how depression leads up. We never have the conversation of, hey, you know, I feel like this sometimes.
Yeah.
One thing that I learned in growth was the grace of critical conversation, the importance of critical conversations. Some of the most critical things that needs to be had are never had due to fear. I'll just hold it in and I'll feel this way. Some of the most horrific things that happens that causes the breakup in marriages is simply that could have been fixed by a conversation.
That's true.
We didn't talk about it. I held it in. Well, I didn't know you felt like this. You didn't ask.
Right.
I didn't. We could have worked on it if I would have known that this is what it was. We never talked about it. So one thing that I believe is with this, and definitely with this book too, is going to acknowledge a sense of pain of feeling when not losing not just a leader, but losing a parent. What it feels like to lose a parent, what it feels like to go through that grief and that pain. Is going to enlighten just on different things of different childs. How do they feel, especially with dealing with parents who are in a specific role, someone who may have a father who's owns his own business and may feel the fear of walking in the shadow, the fear of having to one day put on the shoes. And some of the confidence that I want to give is one of the biggest things. My father passed, someone told me, you have some big shoes to fill. I said, no, I don't. And they said, no, yes, you do. I said, I don't have big shoes to fill. They said, why not? I said, because I'm going to put on my own.
Right. That's right.
I'm going to put on my own. And it's learning yourself. So it's just definitely, it's so many layers. There's so many layers of this book. There's going to be moments in this book that you laugh. There's going to be moments in this book that you cry. It's going to be moments in this book that's going to be like, oh my Lord, let me just close this chapter for a minute because I need a break. Right. There's so many layers because there's layers to life. There's layers to the journey of being who you are. There's layers to grief. There's layers to pain. There's layers to all these different things. And so that's what this book is really going to do, is going to peel layers off until it gets to the point to where eyes are open after the water and after tears is open to go. I understand, and I'm appreciative of that. I understand what my parents went through, and I'm thankful for everything that they do for me. I understand. I didn't understand that my kids felt like this, but I'm appreciative now that I understand that this can be a thing because I now know how to more so be there. So it's a lot of different layers.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's good, man. That's real good. Well, I tell you what, first of all, I am so super proud of you.
Thank you.
You know,
Thank you.
everything that you're doing. And I know your heart, you're a good brother, and you're really empowering people in a big way. As you talked about the book, and I want everybody to realize the book is not just a book, it is a resource in life. You know, it is a resource. We're not here on this podcast just to sell something. Like Jonathan said earlier, it's not about money or this, that, and the other. It's about empowerment.
Yeah.
And this book is a resource. You want to make sure you get it. Go ahead and get it pre-order now.
Yes.
www.jonathanmccaleb.com.
Yes.
Make sure you pre-order it. Make sure you get ready because that's going to be one of the things that's going to start that conversation. Like you said, that's going to take you to another level. Before we close out, Jonathan, man, any last things you want to share with the audience? Anything on your heart? Anything at all?
Just knowing one thing before we go. First, want to say thank you, Sam, for the opportunity of being able to come on here. As always, it's awesome having conversations with you. This is definitely a platform that brings empowerment, that brings wellness, that brings understanding, clarity, and a lot of things that we need to be able to navigate. So thank you for the opportunity. One thing that I just want to leave with you guys is knowing that no matter what it is that you've experienced, no matter what the pandemic has brought, no matter what loss has brought, no matter what anything that may have happened in the past, in the end, there's always going to be another side. Don't get comfortable. Don't get stuck in where you are or where you've been, because it'll always hold you back from where you're trying to go. Just one thing I can leave everybody is there is beauty after ashes. There is a beauty after grief. There's beauty after pain. And I know in this time we've experienced an immense amount of pain with loss, with grief, with being stuck in the house, with not being able to do things that we normally enjoy in life. But there is beauty after pain. The only thing that we have to do to experience that beauty from that pain is to keep living and is to keep going. One of the biggest things I can tell you guys is to don't quit, don't stop, keep on going. If you have a business idea, don't stop right now because it seems hard. Keep going. If you have dreams, you have visions that you want to do, don't stop. This is the perfect time to go do everything that you said you wanted to do. If you're waiting for a perfect moment, you can stop right now because there will never be a perfect moment. There will never be a perfect moment for you to do what you're looking to do. The best moment that you have is today because it's right now. The best time that you have now is now, because one thing that I've learned is that at now will always be. I can say, what time is it? It'll say now. I can count to 10 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What time is it? Now. Yeah. So the perfect time that you're always going to experience is right now. Don't wait. Don't look to the left. Don't look to what other people are doing. Have confidence. Step out of the pain. Let the scars that are there one day be a testimony of what you've been through and to where you are now. So that's my last words.
Thank you so much, man. You get me fired up. Now I'm about to jump out of my chair. I'm twitching now. Get me fired up. You know, it's so interesting, man. The last 2 episodes of the podcast, you know, 2 of the most powerful guests that we've ever had said the same thing. Last week, my brother Angel Rebo, he talked about taking imperfect action now.
Yeah.
Same thing with my brother Jonathan today. He's like, look, don't wait for that perfect time. Ain't no perfect time. Let's get going.
Let's get going. Let's do it right now. If you have an idea, do it now.
Yes, sir. Do it now. So y'all keep getting hit over the head. You understand? Do it now. So hey, look, Jonathan, again, my brother, I appreciate you. I love you. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing for everybody. I know you're empowering everyone from kids to the elderly, and we don't take that lightly. We kind of joke around and have a lot of fun with each other, but at the end of the day, I know what you're doing to empower and impact people's lives, and I thank you so very much. I'm sure everybody in our audience will thank you as well. Thank you so much. Everybody else, guys, let's take advantage of all the information that he shared today. Again, go to pre-order the book at www.jonathanmccaleb.com. Get the book, like the podcast, download, subscribe, and share.
Yes.
God bless each and every one of you, and I look forward to seeing you on the beaches of the world. Have a great day.